So I used to keep saltwater tanks in my house when I was younger. But since I've been a teacher, I've always kept everything at school to use it for education. But of course, the world has changed and I now have aquariums in my house again. These are two of the three large tanks that I actually had at school, a 75, a 40, and a 120. And here's the 120. This one is actually plumbed to be about half full because my plan was to grow mangroves in it. Having marine animals in the classroom has always been a huge benefit because students are generally very well removed, especially from the types of invertebrates that I like to show them. And just being able to observe them is a huge step in the direction of understanding and embracing the natural world around us. One of the first activities I usually do is set a live marine animal in front of students and have them make observations. That's what these pictures are from. Of course, getting the tanks here from school was a bit of an undertaking, and honestly, it was so chaotic in the end of May, I didn't take any pictures and video. But essentially what it entailed was draining all of the tanks, the three main tanks in the quarantine systems, getting any of the critters that actually were still alive after being in quarantine with the school shut down for a couple months, and bringing everything over to the house, which took about 3 van loads. So it was quite an epic journey. But once it all got here, then I started to figure out how I was going to put all this stuff together. One of the first things I had to do is set up a temporary tank out on the porch with all my live rock. Some of this live rock has actually been with me for almost 20 years now. I got it when I was in high school, really, and started cultivating it. It's moved from tank to tank over the years. And so I didn't want it to dry out while I was going through the process of getting the tank set back up. So once that all happened and I got the tank up, I had to make enough water to actually fill the tank. That's another thing that took me a little bit of time. I have an RO unit, and we had to actually go through and keep making water until I could fill the 75-gallon tank with all the rock going into it. So this whole process took a while, but eventually we were able to load the rock into it, load the new water into it, and voila, I have a 75-gallon marine tank in my house. There was one complication. The filter system that was homemade by me sat behind the tank at school. That's because the stand couldn't really fit the system underneath it, and I had plenty of space in my very large room. However, at home, I don't have that kind of real estate in my living room, so the filter system needed to go under the stand. Unfortunately, that meant I had to build a new stand. Thanks to some great YouTube tutorials, I made a design, measured everything out, went to Home Depot, got all the stuff, brought it back, cut all the wood, put it all together, stained it, and voila, I have a new stand for the old tank. Once it was finished, all I had to do is drain the water down out of the 75 again, literally slide the tank from the old stand onto the new stand, get the old stand out of the way, and voila, here we go. It's all set up again. So now that the tank is here, let me give you a little bit of an inventory and show you what kind of critters I actually have. Now, most of the animals that are in here survived being essentially left at school from mid-March till the end of May. Because I had no access. Essentially, I walked away from them and unplugged them. Luckily, I released most of the animals that I could release prior to the shutdown so that we actually didn't have as many in the tanks, which allowed some of the critters that did stay behind, because I had no idea we were going to be gone that long, to survive. So essentially, here are my survivors. I had actually almost nothing really die, which was exceedingly amazing. But let me share with you who we have in the tank. First up are the coral banded shrimp. These guys are a mated pair, and they're very colorful. They're very active. They're constantly moving all over the tank, which makes it very entertaining to watch. This is a fantail goby, and it's also been with me for a very long time. They generally will stay either on the sand or perched on a rock somewhere. They're not really swimming around. It's my only fish, and I was very happy that it survived the quarantine at school. I have two hawkwing conchs. They're really small and they're really charismatic. I call them the twins. You'll often see them basically using their proboscis to scrape algae off of rocks or even the tank glass. This little patch of stalks is actually called zoanthid. It is a type of soft coral and it's really kind of gotten large over the last couple of years. This is what we call a condi or Condylactis anemone, also called a pink-tipped anemone, and it is found a lot in the aquarium industry. You can find them natively within the Caribbean region. And finally, I do have a number of small to medium-sized cucumbers. These sea cucumbers are great little hoovers going around the tank and cleaning. So here I am with aquariums in my house again. And of course, next up is to set up my quarantine system and get that running, and then start to go out into the water and start to bring some invertebrates and marine life in to start to observe and film and talk about. So I can't wait to share it with you, with my students. The journey continues, so keep exploring.